I felt like I was a strong Muslim.
It was a really bad idea to date somebody from another faith.
I wanted to go out with her.
And I kept saying no.
Academic failure, ran into the wrong crowd. It was just a bad time.
Get enough courage to stand up.
Made a very specific choice.
I would not be the same person I was today.
Found myself at a crossroads.
It's never too late to turn your life around.
With my children, I want to make sure that talking about Jesus is as normal as talking about absolutely anything else. There are no mild-mannered people in this family.
Very uniquely talented, fiercely loyal.
Everybody's got their very own, very distinct personality.
Very independent, very strong people. We all are firecrackers and we know what we think and why.
Molly is your classic first child.
Classic first child.
I'm the oldest of 4. I have 3 younger siblings.
She's super talented.
She's really smart.
Always been a natural leader.
Deeply empathetic.
Always ready to listen, which I really appreciate. I've always kind of looked up to her.
And I've always respected her ability to understand both sides of the situation. And I think that's something Molly got from my father.
Loves sharpened pencils and notebooks and checklists.
And we have Noah, my wild child.
He was my kid that wanted to know where the line was so he could cross it.
Very independent. He's always had strong ideas about the world and I've learned a lot from that.
Really, really creative.
Exceptionally bright.
He's always been super real, honest.
Very gifted in so many ways.
I'd probably say I'm the closest to him. We're really alike.
He is probably more adventurous than all the rest of us put together.
He's always been the one that I've looked up to the most just because he gets me.
She's really my person who I share what I'm feeling with first.
Emma's 19.
Emma was just a ray of sunshine all the time.
Very gifted artist.
Super outgoing.
She looks at people and she knows how they're feeling.
She has a natural ability to comfort people. I think that's a God-given gift that she has.
It's just fun to watch how she's blossoming. And then we've got Isaac down at the bottom, so he's 17 now.
I really like basketball.
Thinks he's a better basketball player than I am. Time will tell. So far I can keep up.
I've always gone along with all my siblings.
Isaac is my partner in crime.
He's always been super funny.
His name means laughter, and he has really lived up to his name.
He loves video games, fishing, and anything outside.
He's very cautious, but once he tries something, he's in. I know my parents love Jesus. We were at church every week, but we did not discuss God at home at all.
It was amazing how God provided for us when we were both just young Christians working, poor as church mice, really, and we were relying on God to provide in different ways, and He did, and it stretched our faith.
With my children, I want to make sure that talking about Jesus is as normal as talking about absolutely anything else.
For a lot of my friends in school, Christianity is something that they grew up with. It's very cultural, and so they're Christians because they never imagined being anything else. And for me, my dad made a very specific choice.
He had enough courage to stand up for what he believes in and not just accept his own parents' faith. I think that can relate to me in that it kind of teaches me coming to your own conclusions rather than just accepting what other people tell you.
I would not be the same person I was today. If our family was a member of the Islamic faith, we would be a very different family. It sets a powerful example.
Impacted me because I wanted to make that same deliberate choice. I knew it was a choice because he made a choice.
You can choose to love God at any time in your life. And he chose that, obviously, when he was older. And it kind of shows that it's never too late to turn your life around. And I mean, his life needed to turn around.
Raised in a strong Muslim home. As time progressed, my parents became more and more religious. Grew up in Pakistan. Islam, of course, dominated Pakistani society, and we were no exception. We had a lot of servants, and my parents were pretty distant. So there was sexual abuse that also happened as a child, and they just didn't even know how to talk about it. Mom, for example, discovered that, and she actually beat both me and the chef. And so I was 10 years old. I'm like, what did I do wrong? Started to feel very isolated, very lonely. I was raised by my aunt and uncle. My birth mom died giving birth to me, and she willed me to her cousin. Had I not been adopted, there's no way I could have come to the States. My birth dad was poor and didn't have the resources, whereas my adoptive dad had the income and the American consulate connections through GE to get me to the States. So at the age of 18, I got on a plane and came to the States to go to college. I felt like I was a strong Muslim. I'd been praying 5 times a day and sort of trying to cling to the 5 pillars that I had been raised with. I didn't realize until I got here that my dad traded his entire life's pension for 1 year's tuition. I didn't realize we weren't as rich as we looked. After this couple of semesters, you're on your own. I ended up getting a job at a local McDonald's, which was a culture shock. There's a lot of pressure. As an only child, there's no social security for your parents. You have to go back and provide or send money from here like many foreign students and immigrants do. And in the midst of that, you had never been raised with any discipline. It was just too much pressure, too many things going on. I got fired from my job, academic failure. The American college lifestyle was in full swing, and so I had a hard time with that. I ran into the wrong crowd. It was just a bad time and a low point in my life. It was a combination of failures that led to that desperation point, ultimately in a hospital with a slashed wrist, trying to just end it all. This is the but God ... point.
I was home for a summer and they said, you'll need to get a job.
Change colleges, I could leave the university and start fresh. I get a job at another McDonald's.
I got to working at the McDonald's. One of the swing managers that was on duty was my now husband.
Judy truly was the first believer that I met, and she was very different. She was the hardest worker I knew. She always had a smile and a joy about her.
I thought he was witty and funny and just different.
I want to get to know her better. Like, why is she this way?
Grew up in a family that attended church, very faithful, hands-on servant people.
She would attribute her joy and her behavior to Jesus. Well, I know Jesus, and Jesus is a very important prophet. There's no such thing as becoming or being a born-again Muslim. You're just born in a family, you're automatically one. I thought I knew Christianity. Well, everybody in America is a Christian. And because if your name is Mark or Luke, well, why wouldn't you be? It's just like having your name be Muhammad.
He kept asking me out, and I kept saying, no, thanks.
I think she wanted to get rid of me.
In an effort to get rid of him, I said, how about you come to church with my family and I on Sunday? And rather than saying no,
I said yes.
Which was not what I planned at all. So he ended up coming to church with us, and he got to start hearing the gospel for the first time.
All my stereotypes were starting to kind of getting destroyed there, and I was very drawn to the teaching and the singing and the love concept of a young person having a relationship with God. That was unheard of for me. I thought she was just like one of those happy people. And then I met her family, and they had the same problem.
He did keep saying, wouldn't you like to talk about this somewhere else? So he ended up sort of starting to show up at my house right around dinner time. And then my mother would ask him to stay, and he'd be like, oh, okay. And just having adults that took an interest in him was amazing, and not something he's culturally used to. And so for people to say, Ollie, tell us about your day. He had no frame of reference, so it was just starting to blow all of his paradigms.
I thought we were dating, but she didn't think we were dating.
I would say it was not dates at all, because it just ended up being mostly us talking on my front yard, because I knew as a believer it was a really bad idea to date somebody from another faith.
Judy gave me a birthday gift. I got my first Bible.
We would talk about what happened in church. He'd think things through, and then he'd come back, he'd say, well, my mother says, whatever it is. And I was like, well, what do you think about that? And he was like, I don't know.
It's the words of Christ. It's the life being lived out by Judy and her family. It's a teaching that I'm hearing from the pulpit. It all started to kind of come together. It was starting to really challenge me and mess with my head, because basically that is not who I thought he was. Yes, he was a prophet and respected, but this man whose words I was hearing, it was a lot more than a prophet. And so I kind of found myself at a crossroads. At this point, I've spent 6 months, which felt like 6 years, of just intense relationship and going to church and reading the Bible and getting at least intellectually convinced in my head that he is who he's saying he is. Thankfully, she had a friend.
We were ending up having a conversation about this guy that I'm gushing about, and she's like, so what are you doing?
You're like dating a Muslim. You're not supposed to do that. You can't be unequally yoked. And she's like, She made a very important decision at the end of this Amy Grant concert that we went to.
I said, so we really can't see each other anymore? And he was just like, what? No. He said, well, when they got up there and they did that prayer thing at the end, he's like, I prayed that.
Okay. I think I'm going to become a Christian.
You know what? If that is what you did, fantastic. Best decision you ever made in your whole life. But I can't be here at the same time. You need to take some time and just get to know the Lord on your own.
I was not expecting that response.
So we ended up just breaking it off. So we didn't see each other for quite some time.
That was an important moment, because at that point we went our separate ways, and I really didn't need that pressure to do it for her. That would have been frivolous. I'm still sort of living a dual lifestyle and doing some things when I'm not around Judy and her families. I'm still like partying and doing things. I was raised basically to say, there's angels on your right and left shoulders, and one is counting your good deeds and one's counting your bad deeds. And I knew I had a lot of bad deeds going on. I continued to go to church on my own because I'd gone too far and learned too much. It was not about rules. It was about a relationship. The reason Judy and her parents were trying to be good was not to sort of earn any sort of checklist. It was to honor him. Very different. So that I found very attractive and made sense to me. I took 2 weeks off and read the book of Romans cover to cover. That's where I understood that I cannot earn my salvation through works. I kneeled down and accepted Christ. I was defenseless against his love. My life changed so radically. My words changed. My habits changed. There's no way I could psych myself into changing like that. My theology was still a mess. All I knew was Jesus loved me. This I know. And I was convinced that he died for me. It was a very emotional time, but it was very alone. It was just me and God. I'm 21. I don't know what the implications of being coming to Christ from a Muslim background are. I had not gone into the Matthew 10 cost of following Jesus chapters very much, but I just knew I couldn't say no anymore.
I'd gone back to my college and I was heavily involved with InterVarsity Christian Fellowship. He got involved in an InterVarsity Christian Fellowship.
Every once in a while, Judy would hear about, he's really become a Christian. One of those InterVarsity events, we ran into each other.
We met awkwardly in the parking lot. He's like, my life has changed. And I was like, yes, I've heard that. And he was like, would you like to go out with me? And I said, yes, I would.
Things were very different at this point now because I was focused on Christ. My habits changed, my words changed, and my relatives were like, okay, he's studying hard, he's showing up to work, he's not doing drugs, he's not cussing, he's a mess. What's wrong with him? Because if I credit that to Jesus, that's a problem. So the reaction was pretty much, you need to go back home to your mother, who had become a very strong Muslim leader for women in Karachi. Little did I know what awaited me on the other end.
There was a lot of cost.
I did spend some time in a psychiatric ward. They're being persecuted. Parents didn't come to our wedding. A lot of hurt.
This is not going to look like your parents' house. Getting married, mistake.
Love is a decision.
Something had to change.
I've never felt more sure there is a God.
Christ has powerfully come to me.
Best days with the Lord have to be ahead of me.
It's up to me.
There's no going back.
The book was being written for so many years before it became an actual book.
I wanted to share, my journey, my spiritual journey and my life journey. It's a story of a divine creator also trying to work with you all the way from the time you're a child to introduce himself to you. And he had to bring me all the way to the States for that. It was one thing to be this Muslim background believer in North Texas and you're invited to share your testimony and people clap. I don't know what the implications of being coming to Christ from a Muslim background are.
He ended up going on a mission trip back to Pakistan to talk to his parents.
I did spend some time in a psychiatric ward because my parents, my loving parents, I just love my parents. They were like, something is wrong, and so you're being influenced by rich Americans and a beautiful girl. Some days spent in this ward where psychiatrists could test you if your decisions are your own. Anything I could do that didn't compromise my faith, I would do. Now I'm starting to feel it. Spent a lot of time in tears. This is a big deal. I'm only child. Dad has lost 50 pounds worrying about you, and they're being persecuted, and they're urging you to just give all this stuff up. I couldn't reverse course. I just couldn't refute what I had experienced, even though it would have been so easy. There's no going back. Turns out my psychiatrist was an omnist. My thoughts were my own, and it actually was a good thing because then they could come back and say, he's not crazy. But I spent 2 amazing months with my parents. And I think that was one of the most important growing times in my young spiritual life.
There was a lot of cost. Things could have happened to him that didn't, that we're all very grateful for. His family didn't disown him. They didn't beat him up.
He chose and found his own path and his own journey.
That's inspiring to know that it doesn't matter where you are, you can still go back.
The entire world told him that this is who you need to be, this is the structure, this is the plan for your life. And he was able to free himself.
Really inspirational. Hearing his story, it's kind of pretty cool to be his son. And having him as a dad kind of gave me like a new outlook on life, because it's like, it just shows that really anything is possible.
He is vastly talented, vastly smart.
She's one of a kind. I think she forever changed the trajectory of my life.
God's made us fit together really well.
She's a great friend to me. And I'm very thankful. Parents didn't come to our wedding. There was just a lot of difficulty and hurt. Business career took off. Got my degree, I got my CPA, and I made partner in a big firm. Intercultural marriage is
A
hard.
challenge.
When you marry someone, you marry their whole family. Well, now you're marrying their entire culture.
Trying to work out all those places where this does not fit. I just cornered him in our apartment one night and I said, our getting married, it was an enormous mistake. And he looked at me and just with all the grace he could muster, he just said, I did not make a mistake when I married you. I married exactly who God told me to. I handled it poorly. I think I handled it poorly on a regular basis. A friend was going to a conference and I remember going to the conference with her. I'd like you to put down on a piece of paper all the things about your husband that you think aren't right. And I was like, oh, give me a notebook. And I walked out with the friend and she said, I really couldn't think about anything about Greg, her husband, that I could put down. And I'm just like, I could put down a page on your husband. It dawned on me, like right then, it has nothing to do with him. It has everything to do with her perspective on him. And I realized something had to change, and it was my perspective on him. And that was a turning point. So I came home, and before he got into his car, I was like, I hope you have a good day. And he just looks at me, and he gets in the car, and he drives off. And the next day, I said it again.
Saying love is a decision, right? We had to make that decision.
A change of your perspective, allowing God to really inform your perspective on your marriage, on your kids, on whatever. If God is informing those things, there's a way out.
It was definitely a learning process, and adding the cultural gaps made it even more challenging. But, here we are. Having this intercultural marriage has allowed me to be able to expose my culture to my kids, and that there's more than one way. That God made people of different cultures and different backgrounds, different colors. Take my culture and background and her very stable culture and family views and meld it into this new thing that God had started.
Other than we'd like to raise them with a faith that follows Jesus, I don't know that we'd thought about it just a whole lot. For all the mistakes we've made, like, we gave it 110%. Like, we absolutely had your best interests in mind. It may not have come across the right way. We may not have done it anywhere near perfectly, but we did give it everything we had.
Not a very high grade. Grades are given when the test is over, right? And the test is not over yet, I hope. I hope I'm still taking that test, and maybe the grades will improve with God's grace.
My parents did a good job of raising us all to be very independent, very strong people. And I think that they instilled that in us because they're very much their own people. They're not like anybody else that I know.
My mom is absolutely amazing. She's the person I want to be. I'm following in her footsteps.
Probably the most powerful female role in my life.
She gave me that belief in myself.
The rock of the household, like, holds everything together. She's like the glue.
As similar as I am to my mom, a lot of that is my dad's gifts and strengths and resiliency that he has from his history and his story. I get to kind of have watched firsthand and see it in my life too.
He's hard to describe. He's a really unique person. I don't think I've ever met a person quite like him.
He really does see the best in people. Taught me how to treat people correctly. He taught me how to also listen before you speak.
He makes time for us, and he's very kind and listens. He's the best listener I know.
Definitely, I would say my biggest role model.
One of my first memories is even just like me wanting one of those little Gideon Bibles really bad. And my dad was like, well, I mean, you can have the Bible, but, do you know what that means? Do you know what reading a Bible means for you?
Christianity is kind of like, it's the root of both of their lives, really. Like, and I mean, it's really obvious just in the way that they live. Seeing it in more than just church, and seeing it and really seeing it in their daily lives because of the way that they live, like, that it obviously kind of leaks into me.
I've been given the freedom to pursue creative things that I'm interested in. I've been uplifted.
Compared to all my friends and stuff like that, like, you can just tell how blessed I was to be raised the way I was, and to have them love me so well and always keep their cool through all the things that have happened in my life.
Living here, growing up in this household, growing up with my parents, it has been good.
Every child needs something different, and they recognize that. They parented in a way that was exactly what we needed. I'm grateful that I have their example to look to.
I would say they're doing a very good job. I would not trade my parents for any parents in the world.
Wow.
I think it's only God's mercy and grace, and more is needed, because there are huge challenges that they face every day.
Yeah, I feel like we're 3/4 of the way through the movie. Like, we don't know how it's gonna end.
Yeah.
And some days it's just really incredibly hard to have your children be successful, but not at the right things. would be just such a tragedy.
So it's exciting to hear the things they're sharing and what's happening in their lives. I just want more. I just want more for them and for us to be able to impact the world. For I think the potential is amazing in our kids and in our family. I'm realizing, and I think you, Judy, is too, is we're still parenting.
Made the assumption that if you get your kids through high school intact, if you get your kids through college intact, if you get them married to a sweet Christian person that loves Jesus, they'll be okay. And then I can stop working so hard at this. And I'm just realizing they're always your children. They're never not your children.
Sometimes maybe it takes too long to realize there is a major battle out there for the hearts and minds of the kids. Don't outsource your responsibility.
He says to our kids, we reserve the right to get smarter. Do we love everybody equally? Yes. Do we treat everybody the same way? No, we don't, because each of them are individuals and they each need something. They need something different.
I've never felt more sure that there is a God who loves me very much and calls me to love people the best way I can.
I think it's two separate things, their journey and my journey, and obviously I can see them as role models, but it's still up to me to make my own choices and sort of see what that plan is and where he wants to take me. But I mean, I'm open.
Christ has powerfully come to me in my life. The older I get, the more I see him appearing in my life in ways that I wouldn't have originally thought possible.
I have to keep looking at my life and say the best days of me with the Lord spiritually can't be behind me. Like, they have to be ahead of me, and that's something that I want to keep moving toward.
I think every one of them has the potential to be a world changer.
There's a lot of this self-help and trying to just achieve things on your own. Ultimately, the Lord's the one that grants those things, and so I keep reminding them that this stuff has happened because God's hand of blessing is on our family. Both my parents are now passed, but I got to pray with my mother, hold her hand and pray to Jesus. I have hope for my dad based on the things I've heard of the things that happened before he passed. It was very difficult, but I think they couldn't deny that I had changed. Those that may be listening that have loved ones, whether in the Muslim world or outside, it can happen. It takes time. It takes a lot of prayer and faithfully loving.